The morning sun spilled over the spires of the Living Grace Assembly, casting a golden hue on its glass walls. Members gathered in clusters, dressed in their finest Sunday attire. Women in brightly patterned lace gowns, men in crisp suits, children clutching Bible storybooks. Abuja's elite filled the parking lot with their sleek SUVs, each one a symbol of status and faith. At the heart of it all stood Pastor Daniel Cole, a man loved by thousands. His deep, steady voice had comforted widows, inspired youth, and called sinners to repentance. His sermons were broadcast across radio and TV, and his smiling face adorned billboards around Abuja. To everyone he was the definition of holiness, a man anointed by God, untouchable, flawless. His wife, Evelyn Cole, sat on the front pew, wearing her usual calm smile. Her life revolved around the church, her husband, and their 2 teenage children. She believed in Daniel more than she believed in herself. As the choir's melody rose, Pastor Daniel stepped up to the pulpit, gripping the microphone. "Brethren," he began, voice rich with authority, "when the enemy cannot destroy you from outside, he will try from within. Guard your hearts. Guard your secrets." The congregation roared in approval, not knowing those words came from a man fighting to hide his own darkness. That night, long after the last church member left, Pastor Daniel returned to his office. He locked the door, closed the blinds, and turned off the lights, except for the dim lamp by his desk. Then he walked to a small panel behind his bookshelf and pressed a hidden button. The shelf slid open, revealing a secret door. Inside was a small, soundproofed room. On one wall, stacks of envelopes, foreign currencies, and photographs. On another, documents signed under fake names. A laptop sat on the desk, showing encrypted messages. Pastor Daniel exhaled heavily. His hands trembled as he clicked through the emails. "The next shipment arrives at Port Harcourt by Thursday. We need your approval for the funds." He stared at the message, guilt flashing through his eyes. He had told himself it was just business, a side deal to support the ministry. But deep down he knew it was criminal. He quickly replied, "Send it. But make sure nothing traces back to the church." Outside, the wind howled against the windows. His reflection in the glass looked nothing like the man who preached righteousness just hours ago. Among the choir members was Grace Adeniyi, a 24-year-old graduate who had joined the church after losing her parents. She admired Pastor Daniel deeply, often describing him as a father figure sent from heaven. But lately she noticed something unusual. Late one evening, she had returned to the church to retrieve her forgotten phone and saw a black SUV parked outside the back gate, the same vehicle Pastor Daniel used. Inside, she saw him with a woman who was not his wife. They were whispering intensely, their faces close, almost intimate. Grace froze. She didn't want to believe it. "No, Pastor Daniel would never," she murmured. But as she hid behind a pillar, her trembling hands holding her phone, she captured a few seconds of video. That night, sleep deserted her. She replayed the clip over and over. Should she tell Mrs. Evelyn? Should she delete it and pray? But curiosity turned into unease when she saw that same woman visiting the church office repeatedly. Grace didn't know yet that what she stumbled upon was far bigger than adultery. It was corruption, blackmail, and betrayal all entangled. Elsewhere in Abuja, David Okwara, a seasoned investigative journalist, was working on a report about financial fraud in religious organizations. One name kept popping up: the Living Grace Assembly. A former church accountant had sent him an anonymous message. "If you want the truth, follow the pastor's private accounts. Money meant for charity disappears into shell companies every month." David had seen enough scandals to be skeptical, but something about this one felt explosive. He began digging, cross-checking bank transfers, donor lists, and company records. One name matched again and again: Daniel Cole. He knew exposing a powerful pastor in Abuja could destroy his career or worse, his life. But something inside him said, this one matters. At home, Mrs. Evelyn Cole began noticing her husband's distance. He was always on calls, always traveling for ministry work. His smile had grown thinner, his temper sharper. One night, she walked into his study to bring him tea. When he turned off his laptop too quickly, her heart sank. "Daniel," she said softly, "you're hiding something from me." He looked up, irritated. "Evelyn, must you suspect me every time I breathe?" She stepped back, wounded. "I only ask because I care. The man I married used to pray with me before every decision. Now you barely look me in the eye." For a brief moment, guilt crossed his face. But he quickly masked it with anger. "Enough, Evelyn. Go to bed." That night, she cried silently, praying for a truth she wasn't ready to discover. The woman Grace saw with the pastor was Tonia, a former church member turned businesswoman. She had once sought counseling from Pastor Daniel after a painful divorce. Somewhere between comfort and manipulation, boundaries blurred. What started as spiritual guidance turned into secret meetings, money transfers, and eventually an affair. But Tonia wasn't just a lover. She was also a threat. One evening she told him coldly, "Daniel, if you ever try to leave me, I'll ruin you. I have copies of every transaction. I know where the money goes." Pastor Daniel froze. He knew she was capable of anything. "You wouldn't dare," he whispered. She smiled. "Try me." He didn't realize that the empire he built on deceit was now held hostage by the very woman he thought he controlled. Determined to understand the truth, Grace began secretly following the pastor's activities. She noticed how every Wednesday night, he stayed late at church alone. So one evening, she hid near the choir gallery and waited. At 11 p.m., she heard the click of the pastor's shoes echoing through the hallway. Then came the soft whir of the hidden door opening. Curiosity overpowered fear. She slipped behind him and peered through the half-open door. Her eyes widened. Piles of cash, files, and photos. She gasped involuntarily. The pastor spun around. "Who's there?" Grace ducked, heart pounding, but it was too late. He spotted her reflection in the glass. "Grace." His voice darkened. "What are you doing here?" She stammered. I was cleaning, sir." He approached slowly. "What did you see?" "And nothing," she whispered. He smiled tightly. "Good. Because sometimes, curiosity can destroy faith." Grace nodded, terrified. That night, she went home and backed up the footage she had taken, just in case something happened to her. Journalist David Okwara received an anonymous email. Attached were photos, bank documents, and a short video showing Pastor Daniel and Tonia together. He frowned. "Who sent this?" The message read only, "The truth must come out. He's not who he says he is." David cross-checked the documents and found direct links between church charity accounts and offshore transfers. He knew it was enough to shake Abuja. But before publishing, he decided to confront Pastor Daniel directly, to give him a chance to respond. The next day, David visited the church, pretending to be a donor interested in funding a youth project. Pastor Daniel welcomed him warmly, unaware of his identity. "Brother David, God bless you. The youth are our future." But when David laid the documents on the desk, the color drained from Daniel's face. "You've been moving millions through fake charities, Pastor," David said calmly. "And I have evidence." Daniel's hands trembled. "You don't understand. It's not what it looks like." "Then tell me what it is." "It's complicated," Daniel muttered, his voice cracking. "Sometimes you have to bend to survive in this world." David shook his head. "No, Pastor. You've bent the truth so far it broke." Within 48 hours, the headline hit every media outlet. Abuja pastor implicated in money laundering and affair scandal. Social media exploded. Members wept. Others raged in disbelief. At the church gates, police vans arrived. Pastor Daniel was arrested mid-sermon, the microphone still in his hand. Cameras flashed. Mrs. Evelyn collapsed in tears as the congregation watched their hero fall. Grace, standing among the crowd, felt both vindicated and heartbroken. David watched silently from a distance. Justice was served, but at a painful cost. Weeks later, Pastor Daniel sat in a small, damp prison cell, staring at his Bible. Gone were the designer suits, the applause, the glory. All that remained was silence and shame. One day, Mrs. Evelyn visited him. Her eyes were tired, but there was no hate, only sorrow. "Daniel," she whispered, "why?" He couldn't lift his head. "I wanted to do good, but somewhere along the way I lost myself." She placed her hand on the glass barrier. "You were supposed to lead souls, not deceive them." Tears streamed down his face. "I know. I'm sorry." Months passed. The church reorganized, led by honest elders who focused on rebuilding faith. Grace's courage was praised. David's story won national recognition. Tonia disappeared from Abuja, rumored to have fled abroad. From his prison cell, Pastor Daniel began writing letters, to the church, his wife, his children. Letters of confession, repentance, and hope. One of his final letters read, "A man can hide his sins from the world, but never from God. Truth has a way of finding light. Let my fall be a lesson. Hypocrisy and deceit can never stay hidden forever. No one is above truth. Even the most respected can fall when they live in deceit. Secrets rot the soul. The longer they're hidden, the greater the destruction when exposed. Power without humility leads to ruin. Faith must be lived, not performed. Forgiveness is powerful, but justice must be done."
Kindly subscribe, like, and comment for more interesting stories.